Super Mario 3D World is one of my favorite games of all time, and when the task came to port this game to the Nintendo Switch, Nintendo went above and beyond. In fact, I don't think they just went above and beyond, I think they created history and made the best Nintendo Switch port. We're now a year and a half removed from this port's initial release. Now that the dust has settled, I think that Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury blows all other Nintendo Switch ports out of the water. So today, let's talk about Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. There are chapters in the description if you want to jump around, but hopefully by the end of this video, you'll agree with me that this is the best port on Switch. Now, the quality of a port ultimately rides on the quality of the base game that's being ported, and luckily Super Mario 3D World is one of the most underrated Mario games of all time. There's so much here in terms of creativity, as there are a ton of different levels, so a ton of different opportunities for Nintendo to flex their creative muscle. I mean, from a purely level design perspective, 3D World is one of the greatest games of all time. They trimmed the fat of exploration that you would find in previous 3D Marios, and it's just platforming. Gimmicks are abundant, but rarely reused, and when they are, they're mixed with a brand new idea to make it feel fresh again. Like these green platforms where you gotta stand on one side to make it move forward. Here you're avoiding enemies, but in this level it turns into some sort of on-rails shooter. There are 117 total levels in this game, and not a single one of them is bad. That is an insane accomplishment. The level design, the graphics, the soundtrack are all so varied between the different worlds, different levels, and once you add on the 4 collectibles for each level, this game has crazy replayability. Not to mention that it's the only 3D Mario with true multiplayer, which was implemented perfectly. You obviously have to work together to get to the end of the level, because if you all die at the same time, you have to restart, but there's a little bit of competition here as well, because whoever gets the most points ends up getting the crown for the next level. This crown doesn't actually mean anything, so if you want to ignore this and purely be cooperative, you can, but if you want, this game can turn into a massive scramble where you're trying to run through the levels as fast as you can, yelling with your friends and chasing after them trying to steal the crown, wanting to be the first person to get the collectibles so you get more points. It is hectic, chaotic, and just pure fun. I don't want to spend much more of this video complimenting the Wii U version of this game, because I already have a massive video all about that. But suffice it to say, I think this game is extremely underrated and one of Nintendo's best titles ever. Quickly before we move on here, we're so close to hitting our goal of 150,000 subscribers before the end of the year. And according to YouTube, so many of our viewers aren't actually subscribed. So if you're enjoying the content so far, hit the subscribe button, because all that means is you're just going to be able to watch more stuff you enjoy. Sorry for the interruption, let's get back into it. Now let's talk about the port itself. How do you fix what I would personally consider to be a masterpiece? Well, it shouldn't even be possible, but Nintendo found a way. The first thing you do is modernize. That alone doesn't even really make too much sense. How do you modernize a game that isn't even a decade old? Well, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury pulls a lot from Super Mario Odyssey, a game which came out 4 years after 3D World. Whether you're talking about more obvious changes such as the sped up pipe animation when you ground pound or roll into a pipe, or the addition of a photo mode with a bunch of awesome filters, or the smaller stuff which is mainly subconsciously realized, such as removing the X in the coin and lives counter, or adding in a new movement guide similar to Odyssey's action guide. They pulled a fair amount from Super Mario Odyssey, which instantly makes this game feel brand new again. Not only that, but they cleaned up a ton of the UI and made a bunch of small improvements like coloring in the stamps, which just go to make this game feel brand spanking new even though it came out in 2013. One of the most underrated things Nintendo did to make this port feel so good is by changing Mario & Co.'s movement. Super Mario 3D World on the Wii U is a slow game. It didn't feel super slow while you were playing it for the first time, but after Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury released and movement speeds were up to upwards of 20%, it's nearly impossible to go back to the Wii U original. The faster movement speed is perfect, because if you're playing in single player, it allows the player to demonstrate their mastery of the game's mechanics even more by blazing through these levels, and if you're playing in multiplayer, it just adds to the chaotic, hectic nature which is this game's multiplayer. The original game had a very restrictive moveset because of the whole nature of the multiplayer. You were supposed to be able to just pick up a Wiimote, turn it sideways, and play the game, regardless if you're a master in 3D Mario or this is your first experience. The original nailed that because the movement speed was pretty slow, you could only go in 8 directions, and Mario didn't really have his whole moveset that people have come to know and love. Sure, you got the jump, sprint, wall jump, you could pick up items items and whatnot, but that was about it. This port struck the perfect balance of making sure the moveset is still simplistic and people can still hop in and play multiplayer for the first time, but with the addition of a dive and mid-air roll, it's so much more obvious that advanced players can cook and pull stuff off that just wasn't possible in the original. They did this without sacrificing the pick up and play nature of multiplayer, which is critical because more people are going to be playing multiplayer now than ever before. The single biggest addition to this port that I don't see many people talk about is the addition of online play. I will stand by the fact that multiplayer is how this game was originally meant to be played. Super Mario 3D World was designed from the ground up with multiplayer in mind, and everything from the level design to the UI, from the power-ups to the bosses, clearly emphasizes that. Unfortunately, not many people were able to play this game multiplayer because it originally did not have online play. With an online mode being added to this port, this removes the massive barrier for entry of having to get your friends over at your house just to play this game the way it was meant to be played. Now, if your friends have a copy of the game and a Nintendo Switch Online connection, there's absolutely nothing stopping you from playing through the entire campaign in multiplayer, which again, in my opinion, leads to so much better of an experience. This is actually historic for the Mario franchise. No 2D or 3D Mario game has ever featured online to this extent. I guess the closest we've ever gotten is with Odyssey and Luigi's Balloon World, but even then, it's like you're uploading a ghost. True multiplayer online has never been a thing in 2D or 3D Mario until now, and it is awesome. With any other port, the addition of online play to a game that was previously exclusively local multiplayer would be by far and away the biggest addition. But in 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, it almost feels like an afterthought just because this game's real biggest addition was such a game changer. Bowser's Fury can and probably will end up getting its own video just based on how beautifully crafted this game is. I truly believe that Bowser's Fury might be the most polished and most consistent 3 hours in all of video games. I see people complain about this game's short runtime, but there is literally no downtime within that. You are getting hit with idea after idea, which is something very few other titles can say they keep up for their entire runtime. The consistent quality on display here is unbelievable, and the entirety of Lake Lapcat honestly feels like Nintendo just flexing. Everything in this open world is so joyous, so creative, and so fun. Despite the game being short, that doesn't mean it lacks variety. There's still a ton of unique ideas on display here. I mean, from one moment you'll be racing against rotating blocks, then you'll be creeping your way through an invisible puzzle, then fighting a massive kaiju boss, then running around an open world. I don't know how many different ways I can say it. This game is just full of idea after idea after idea after idea. In any other 3D platformer, any one of these open areas would be the absolute highlight, the creme de la creme, but here they're just all back to back to back. It's almost unreal, the level of quality and care Nintendo was able to put into every single second of this side mode. My favorite part of Bowser's Fury, though, has to be how it recontextualizes the gimmicks from Super Mario 3D World. After all, I've seen people compare this game to Odyssey just solely because it's more of an open world thing and you're collecting shines and whatnot, but this game is clearly 3D World through and through. Of course, you got the power-ups, the moveset, and the graphics all being so similar, but the level design and gimmicks are clearly what set it in the 3D World category. I mean, this ice skate showed up in like 2 levels from 3D World. It was barely used at all, but it goes from a fun way to maneuver and take out enemies to being used in an insane high-speed chase through these rotating tunnels. The propeller cube also turns into a completely new power-up when put in the context of a massive tower needing to be climbed, luring enemies onto these panels only to jump and send them into lava. These massive springs that you need to jump on. Hell, even clear pipes all take on completely new uses in this mode. And that leads into my favorite part about this game, how these two seemingly different experiences complement each other so beautifully. As a package, Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury are a complete experience and do not feel disjointed in the slightest, despite the fact that they're two completely different options. You have to back out into a menu if you're in one and want to go to the other. They should not feel as connected as they do. There's obviously the more tangible connections that I just mentioned, such as reusing gimmicks, designing levels around the same power-ups, the identical moveset, and obviously the cat theme. But they're also so similar thematically. They both just want you to get into the action as fast as possible and keep you in the action while throwing hundreds of unique ideas at you that are coming towards you at a breakneck pace. Their core thesis is just to overwhelm you with pure platforming bliss. And while 3D World does this by being a series of mostly linear levels that are constantly giving you new ideas then throwing them out in favor of new gimmicks, Bowser's Fury adopts a more open style, but it doesn't fall into the trap of being slower just because there's more exploration here, as Plessy literally acts as the developer's way to immediately take you from one section of the game to the next. In practice, Bowser's Fury actually feels a lot like the base 3D World campaign in the sense that there's literally zero downtime between ingenious ideas. In my opinion, everything mentioned so far puts this game far and away above all the other Nintendo Switch ports. Personally, the only two games that even come close would be Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and, oddly enough, Pikmin 3 Deluxe. While Pikmin 3 Deluxe, including the DLC from the base game and allowing you to play the campaign now in multiplayer, is cool, the new side story missions featuring Olimar and Louie weren't nearly as innovative or interesting as Bowser's Fury was to 3D World. Those side missions felt like more of the same of Pikmin 3, while Bowser's Fury took the core themes of 3D World and innovated upon them. And then of course you have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. This game added some new characters, carts, and items, it tweaked the gameplay a fair bit, and added a brand new battle mode. But unfortunately, the core changes of the base 3D World campaign improved it far more than 8 Deluxe's additions and reworks, and the addition of Bowser's Fury and online, which is another huge plus for this game, just improve upon 3D World so much to where I can't really say that the difference between this and this is greater than the difference between this and this. I'm actively avoiding talking about the booster pass here, as that's something you have to pay for additionally, so it doesn't really factor into this decision. Super Mario 3D World was a phenomenal title that somehow got improved 10x. 3D World plus Bowser's Fury feels like a completely rejuvenated game thanks to its faster movement and expanded moveset. It made history for the Mario series with its introduction of online play, and pushed the franchise into a brand new direction while maintaining what made the original campaign so great with Bowser's Fury. It did this all while being a port, and that's why it's gotta be the best port on the Nintendo Switch. Hopefully you now agree with me, but if you don't, let me know in the comments below. We all know the Nintendo Switch has more than its fair share of ports, so there's definitely potential that one of the other ports is better in your mind. After all, this was all just my opinion, and if you think another port was better, let me know down below. Super Mario 3D World is one of my favorite games of all time, and hopefully I did it justice within this video. With that out of the way, I've been Thomas from the Switch Stop, and if you're in the mood for more 3D Mario, I got 50 new costume ideas for Mario Odyssey 2 on the screen right now.